Folks, I'm Dave Schneider. I'm a UPSer. I'm right now a package driver, and I've been a shop steward for the last 5 years, almost 6 at this point. And I'm running for president of Teamsters Local 512 in November. This is the first time since the February union meeting, where we have had Teamsters from several different work sites here in Jacksonville under one roof. And that's a big deal. Everybody, round of applause. But this is a meeting of the rank and file members who make up Teamsters Local 512 in Jacksonville. Everybody here who got invited out is a workplace leader. Whether you're a shop steward, whether you were a shop steward, whether you're just a member, these are folks who sense that there's something that needs to change about our union. They sense that there's something deeply wrong going on at work right now. And especially in this time of pandemic in 2020, I think this has really come to the forefront. Our local union executive board, the leadership, they've been in power for nearly 2 decades. And they have not had a real challenger in at least 6 years. And everybody in here already knows it. We are going to challenge them for the first time in 6 years. 512 Teamsters United is fielding a slate of 7 candidates, 7 Bulldog union stewards, 7 fighters, 7 people who stand up to management and fight for our interests. We're going to be going head-to-head with them coming November. Here's the thing. We're not, though, just running, and this isn't just a slate. And I want to talk for a second about what the difference is between a slate and what we're doing here. This is something that, to my knowledge, has never been done before in Teamsters Local 512. What we're doing here is we're building a caucus. See, the people in power, whenever they've had to run for office, which, like I said, hasn't been in about 6 years, they run a slate. They run a slate of 7 names, and their pitch to people is, vote for us, put us in office, and we'll take care of the rest. Hasn't really worked out so well up to this point. We have a completely different vision on this. What we say instead is, let's take back what's ours, and together, let's rebuild this union. Let's put the members in control and transform our union. A caucus is an organization of bringing together like-minded Teamsters who have a similar vision. We don't all agree on everything. We have different political views. We've got all sorts of different views in this room. But one thing we do all agree on, we're united by a common vision that the members who make up our union are the ones who need to control it. That's right. Here's the thing. In 2020, there's that old expression, something's got to give. 2020, I think everybody can safely say it's the year that something finally gave. Okay? You go to any work site where there are Teamsters in Jacksonville, and for the last 7 months since the pandemic began, what we've seen is employers systematically go after our rights, try to roll back our wages and benefits, try to harass us on the job, putting us in environments that are nowhere near safe, that don't have adequate safety measures in place. We've seen them go after us tooth and nail, and our union's response at every moment, they've caved under pressure. Whenever any amount of pressure has been brought to bear on them by employers, they've caved. Whether it's package drivers getting forced in for 6 reports under penalty of discipline, including terminations. Whether it's feeder drivers who are watching their work get subcontracted out to non-union outfits. Whether it's bus drivers. And man, I gotta tell you, after meeting and talking with so many bus drivers over the last couple of months, right here in our local, they've really seen this. Okay. Where in bargaining, in negotiations right now, these companies, STA and Durham, these bottom-feeding companies trying to bid down people's wages, trying to keep their benefits, their health care expenses massive, the out-of-pocket expenses, especially during the time of pandemic. These companies have gone to the wall to basically force school bus drivers to bear the brunt that they don't want to pay for the school reopening. And right now they're seeing the cost of it. They're seeing 3 drivers right now at STA confirmed out on COVID-19. You've got kids with COVID riding the school buses. And our union, once again, they had contract negotiations going on. They could have fought harder. In fact, our union had fighters on the bargaining committee, like Faith Jackson and like Ramon Turner. Those were the folks saying we have leverage at the bargaining table. We could win a good contract, a better than ever contract, in fact, and we could win a safe reopening. And they've been silenced. They've been pushed to the side as our union came in and gave STA more than what it wanted. Their opening bid was more than what STA was even going to ask for. Something's got to give. And indeed, right now it is. That's why everybody's here in this room. In November, you're going to hear two different competing visions of what a union needs to be. On one of these visions, it's going to be the unions, the officers, it's the people down at the hall, it's their drinking buddies on the weekend, and they sort of manage the rest of us. They manage the rest of us and decide what's going to go on. And honestly, it hasn't worked out that well. It's kind of like, let us handle it. Maybe we'll help you get your job back. Maybe you'll win a grievance once in a while. But don't expect too much out of the union. Our vision is different. We think you're the union. We're the union. All of us should pay dues. We pay $2.5 million every year into our union's treasury. We're the ones who do the jobs. And we think unions at their core are just groups of workers getting together to fight to improve our conditions, our common conditions at work. That's all a union is. It's not the officers, it's not the union hall, it's not just job insurance, although that should be part of it, of course, too. We're the union, and that's the vision that we need to bring in Teamsters 512 if we're going to be stronger. If you ask why we keep taking concessionary contracts, why we see our conditions get worse, why it seems like we're always voting on contracts that are getting slowly but surely worse and worse and worse, and why it's never been worse than this moment right here in 2020. You'll hear all sorts of excuses. You'll say, or the folks in the hall, they'll tell you, look, you know, the company won't go for these proposals. Or better yet, it's a right to work state. People in Jacksonville, they don't really like unions. They'll say things like, suck it up, you know, just do the job. That one's particularly egregious to me. We just celebrated Labor Day. You know, the whole reason Labor Day started in 1886 was workers getting together and were being worked 14 hours or sometimes more. They were making substandard wages. They were dying in fires at work. They got together and said, enough. We're forming unions to improve our conditions, not to just get what the company gives us. That's right. That's got to change. Our union needs to fight to improve things. It's not suck it up and just take it from the employers. We have power in numbers. And here's what I'm going to say too. When they say Jacksonville doesn't like unions, I look around. This is a city that the Teamsters run, whether we know it, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. Okay? UPS, it's not only the people who bring you all of the packages that people order to their homes or to their businesses. It's one of the 10 biggest employers in the city. Every single person in Jacksonville either works at UPS, knows somebody who works at UPS, or worked at UPS in the past. Everyone knows that if you go and talk to somebody. I'm out on routes during the day. Every clerk, you go up, delivering a package, they say, my uncle works at UPS, or my son does, my daughter does, what have you. I think we've got a lot of power. Our school bus drivers, Teamsters, deliver 47,000 children 5 days a week during the school year, safely to and from home, taking them to school and getting them back. They're responsible for the safety of 47,000 kids a day. That's a big deal. Teamsters run Jacksonville. Every time you see an airplane in the air going in and out of the NAS Jax base down there, you can thank a Teamster who worked on the sheet metal, who laid the electrical wiring, who ordered the parts, and kept those pilots safe, landing, flying in and out of NAS Jax. Those were Teamsters who did that. Teamsters are down at the ports. We take containers that come in on ships from all over the world and load them onto trucks. Teamsters do all sorts of jobs in Jacksonville. We work at CSX, the railroads. In fact, some of the beers in this very cooler were brewed by Teamsters here in Jacksonville. That's the thing, is that we've got a lot of power. I refuse to believe Jacksonville is just a place that's against unions. We do a tremendous amount of the most important work in this community. It's time our unions start reflecting that. Yeah. So, very briefly, I want to run through, if everybody wants to open up their folder real quick. There's a bunch of great handouts in here. We're going to go over some of these. And I'm going to be brief on this because I know I'm already going pretty long, but which I have a tendency to do. It's great as a steward if you're trying to tie up management, but maybe not so great for speaking. I want everybody to pull out this document. It says our 2020 platform. Here's the thing. We're running on 3 principles in 512 Teamsters United, and I think they're pretty simple. I think they're foundational, cornerstone principles to what a good union is. Member control, winning and enforcing strong contracts, ending corruption. Pretty straightforward, but let's talk very briefly. What do we mean by member control? Concretely, what does it look like? What it looks like? Steward elections. Every work site. every workplace union-wide. Now, that's what it says in our bylaws, but everybody in this room knows those bylaws have never been followed at every workplace. Rather than having steward elections, we've seen people get appointed and then promoted based on who they know, rather than what their own members think about it, rather than whether or not they fight for their own members. See, every steward, in my opinion, should have to run for election. None of us are afraid of an election. None of us are afraid of putting it up to the members to decide. And that's how we're going to run the union. We're going to respect our own bylaws, finally.
That's right.
Beyond that, member control means that every member in each department, in each company, in each craft, they're going to be the ones who decide what the union does, what it prioritizes, and the moves it makes on the shop floor in their department, in their company, and in their craft. You're going to hear a lot of scare tactics. I've already heard plenty of them. They'll say things like, oh, Dustin and Dave, these guys want to run the feeder department. No. They'll say, we want to run the bus companies. No. We want the bulldogs, the best fighters in every department, to run what the union does in those companies. Let's set the record straight. We have bulldog union stewards. We have workplace leaders who aren't afraid to stand up to companies. Every work site, every package center, every department, every bus yard, they're out there. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have a union that emphasizes their leadership in the decision-making process. That's going to change. Member control means that the members need to have the tools to be able to control their own union. One thing our local has systematically neglected is education of its own members. That's going to change. Year-round, we are going to be distributing newsletters. We're going to get into the 21st century. We're not just going to have a 90s GeoCities website up there for y'all to try and navigate around with a bunch of broken links, calendar events from 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 years ago. We're not doing that anymore. The days of a union official down at the hall saying, I don't know about all this Facebooks and Twitter stuff. Those are over. We're going to actually reach members where they're at. And I'll tell you this, our members are on social media. We are going to have a team of people, they'll be held accountable, so that we're putting out what the union actually stands for. But we're going to communicate with our members. We're going to have parking lot meetings like the one I was very privileged to attend with Faith Jackson and Ramon Turner over there up at the New Berlin STA yard. They had 45 drivers out from 4 different bus yards in our local union. It's the first time I think anything like that's happened in Teamsters 512. It was inspiring. They all came out to talk about the ways in which STA was going after them, the way in which STA was putting them at risk and, rolling over safety measures, not paying people their wages. That's the kind of thing that we need to do more of. We need workplace leaders that are empowered to call parking lot meetings. We're going to have regular educational classes down at the hall too, on labor law, on the contract, on your rights at work. That's going to happen every month, and whether you're a steward or not, I don't care. Our members need to be equipped. You can't have member control if members don't have the tools to control the union. That's got to change. We're going to have rank and file committees, and we're going to have a stewards council too, which Dustin's going to talk about in a little bit. And each and every person in this room is going to be able to play a role in leading the union. You're not just electing an executive board, you're going to be part of it. So 2, strong contracts and enforcement. I'll tell you what that means. It means right off the bat, we need to expand the number of stewards. I thought about this the other day when I was out at the STA yard. These big companies like UPS, like STA and Durham, they will have supervision teams of hundreds of people who are there to watch you, who are there to make sure that you work as fast as possible. Forget about safety, forget about your rights or whatnot. And we've only got 2, 3 union stewards in those areas. Sometimes you'll end up in a situation where you have 1 union steward for an entire sort or an entire bus yard. Well, 1, that puts the steward in a terrible position because they're going to take all the heat from the company with no backup. But then you also have situations like on the River City Day sort where members got together, 95% of the sort signed a petition saying we need more stewards. Jim, Shirley, please hold steward elections. Let us bring in more people to be able to enforce the contract. And that petition went in the garbage. That's a disgrace. It's in violation of our bylaws and it'll never happen again. If management's going to put 3 supervisors to a PD, we're going to put 3 union stewards to a PD.
That's right.
If management's going to put a 10-person supervision team on one bus yard, we're going to have 10 stewards out there too. It's time that the union be able to enforce the contract, and we can't be doing that if we're going into work every day with only half an army or less. Strong contracts, winning strong contracts means a 365-day-a-year contract campaign. It means, like out at STA, we're not going to be doing the haphazard, show up to negotiations, you haven't talked to your members at all. 75% of your members have been laid off because of coronavirus. You can't even consistently communicate with your members, and you bargain something that they don't even know about. We're done with that. That's the other thing. We're never going to lie to you and tell you a bad contract is a good one. We think we've got the leverage to be able to win, but our members need to be educated. They need to be informed. But we're going to have a rank and file contract committee that's elected, made up of the workplace leaders who are going to be doing that. Now, I want to say a brief word about strike readiness on this too. You know, we get a lot of flack sometimes from our local officers that we are too, that we just want to strike all the time, that we just want to strike companies. Well, I'll tell you this. Our opinion is the strike is indeed the most important weapon of last resort for workers in bargaining. The sacred right we all have to withhold our own labor from our employers to actually have our demands met. That's our right. That's our right as workers to be able to do. But we don't believe in recklessly striking. We don't believe in recklessly calling strike authorization votes. We think that you have to do preparation with the members. We believe in strike readiness. So we're never going to have a situation again like Jim Shirley had with the STA drivers, where he took a strike authorization vote months after bargaining began, and because it was so poorly planned, so poorly thought out, he only got 60 ballots back out of the nearly 1,200 members that we have over at the bus yards. That's a disgrace, because if you get that few back, that's blood in the water to an employer like STA. They know you're not serious. They're not afraid of you at the bargaining table, and they're certainly not going to give you what they want. All that says, Jim Shirley pulled his members' pants down in front of every single bus company that they were trying to bargain with. That's a disgrace. It'll never happen. Anytime we go into contract negotiations, strike readiness is the priority. We're not going to strike recklessly. We're not going to be pushing that. We don't care. Our members are the ones who decide whether or not to go on strike.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line. That's not our decision. It's the decision of the members. But they need to be prepared so that they're not blackmailed by companies and blackmailed by bad strike authorization votes and then forced to take a concessionary contract. Those days are over. That's never happening again. We need discipline panel reform for UPS. No more of the cronyism. No more of corrupt union officials, from places we've never even been, meeting in cities that we can't get to decide the fate of our jobs. That's done. We need real panel reform. Finally, ending corruption. I'm just going to say this in closing here. $2.5 million in dues is what we pay every year into Teamsters 512. That's our money. We pay it before we pay the light bill. We pay it before we pay the rent or our mortgage. We pay it before we buy groceries, before we find childcare. That comes out of your check before you even get access to your check. That's a sacred bond between the union and its members. It's a sign of trust. And when we see things like union officials, no-show BAs, who skip out on the members they represent, month after month, going months at a time without ever showing up for the job. When we got stewards who aren't doing their job, and they're closer with the company than the members that they're supposed to represent, that's a disgrace. You know what else is a disgrace? Is when we have members struggling to keep the lights on or struggling to make rent right now, that we have union officials still using that dues money, double dipping into it, in fact, to not only get their gas reimbursed. That's reasonable. You get your gas, put up your car for use at work, sure, you should get reimbursed for that. But then double dipping and taking many thousands of dollars in car allowances that allows you, under our bylaws, to buy your own personal vehicle. It doesn't belong to 512. It doesn't belong to the union hall. It's yours. That double dipping's got to end. That's a disgrace to every member that's struggling to pay their bills right now. If we can't negotiate better contracts and a living wage for our members, union officials should not be living fat off of the dues that members pay. That's got to end. Basically, people are going to call us radical. They already have. And it's because fear governs our union hall right now. It governs our union leadership. They can't run on their record and they're desperately afraid that their 2-decade party down there in Lane Avenue is over. When they look around this room, they see the people on the slate, they see people upset, they think it's over. They're telling people things like, we want to take away people's overtime at UPS.
Not true.
With a straight face, they've been saying that to people. I'm here to just put this on record. We want every member who wants more overtime to get more overtime. We want every member who doesn't want overtime to have the ability to live a normal life outside of work. Okay? We want the members to get everything that is due to them under the contract. If they have the seniority, they should get as much overtime as they want. Lord knows, a place like UPS, there's plenty of work to be done. I mean, if you don't believe me, go ask the supervisors. Okay? They're all out there working, taking our work. There's plenty of work to be done. This whole thing, we want to get rid of overtime. I'm saying this on the record, screen cap it, tweet it, do whatever you want. Tell people, that's a bald-faced lie, and it's because of a fear tactic. It's people who are afraid, not just of employers, they're afraid of their own membership finally standing up. So here's the thing, in November, no more fear. No more clubs. No more treating the union hall like it's a club. No more sellout deals that we're going to disguise to you all as being big wins. No more company stewards sitting on the side of the table with management while you sit by yourself on the other side. No more secret knowledge that you have to go to the union hall and talk to a couple experts to be able to find out. No more double dipping into the pot of union dues, using it as our own piggy bank while our members struggle. That all gets put to an end. Nobody in our 7-person slate is afraid of UPS. No one's afraid of STA or Durham. No one's afraid of any of these employers, and we are damn sure not afraid of ourselves. Because we're the members too. We're not afraid of you, and we're not afraid of ourselves. We want member control. Folks, the Teamsters run this city. It's time that our paychecks, it's time that our contracts and our union starts looking like it. But I'm going to tell you all, member control requires member participation. So everybody in this room is going to need to get active. Okay? We're going to talk about that here in a little bit about the ways you can. But everybody in this room, we're going to have to campaign hard. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be at the gates in our t-shirts with materials and literature, be able to talk and have these conversations with coworkers. Tell them there can be a different way in our local union. But we've got to work together. We've got to bring everybody together. And if we campaign hard from now till November 30th, on December 1st, you all will claim what's rightfully ours.
That's right.
Thank you all. I appreciate everybody.